Hey everybody, what's going on? Dace here, and today we are taking a look at one of my Jamestown Plus clears. This, I'm pretty sure, was from last year when I did the Super Gauntlet on Legendary difficulty. This game is just gushing with theme, unlike any other shmup ever. If you've ever played this, you'll know exactly what I mean. Like, just the fact that, like, this is one of the few shmups that just has a story that's actually interesting to me. I won't get into like the plot details because that's just for another time. But if you don't know the game, you need to look into checking this game out one way or another. It is an absolute blast, even though it's like a vertical scrolling. It is nice and wide, like visually, like everything's just wide open. There are just a ton of ways you can customize like your build, all that. I'm using Treason. I got into this mode specifically, or this build specifically, because I like the idea of being able to lock onto targets without having to line up with them or pull off any other kind of like strange angled stuff. I just found that this ship or weapon choice to be a really fun, really engaging one to go with. But yeah, there are absolutely tons to choose from. So yeah, if you want something more standard, like, you're gonna find it here. If you want something wonky, like there's just a little bit of everything in there for everybody. But yeah, like in terms of the theme though, like just the way they execute, or rather the way they deliver the story, the landscapes, like just everything, like there really is nothing like this game. It's just crazy how incredible this is, and this is certainly one of the masterpiece shmups in my opinion. Like everything from the visuals, the story, the music, the UI, like everything. The menus are even a blast, like at the start there. Just everything is just very satisfying in this game, and that's one thing I just love about it. Really cool enemies too, really cool bosses. We'll get into a bit of all of that stuff as we go. But one reason I did want to come back to this one, because this clear has actually already been put on the channel, but at the time I wasn't doing commentaries. I think it was just a little bit before I started doing that. And this is a game I've been meaning to come back to and share my thoughts on. Generate a little more interest where I can, because it is such an incredible game. So what you're seeing there, that like sphere thing that kind of just happened, you can do that to it's been a long time since I played this, so I think the way it works is you build up your gauge, and then you can use that ability, which like converts or cancels out bullets or something, or converts it into score or something. I'm not sure. It's not like I'm paying attention right now. I'm just focusing on talking, but yeah, you can use it to more or less make yourself invincible for a short period of time, and that's all good stuff. So what I really think is cool with this game is the way in which it's set up. So if you're playing on an easier difficulty, you will not have access to the full run. Sometimes I feel like games don't handle that so great, but in Jamestown Plus, I think it is actually a perfect way to introduce it. Because it gives, like, in ways it inspires players. Like, if you enjoy the game enough to, let's say, clear it on an easier difficulty where you're just doing four stages or whatever it is, I don't recall exactly, it inspires you to step things up a notch with that next difficulty, because you know, like, oh wow, like there are actually more stages to dip into, so I'm gonna do that next. And I think they just handled it beautifully in this game. Oh man, this game is just fantastic though. So interestingly enough, there is a bit of I have a bit of history with this game. For those who have never really been in the sphere where this would be relevant, long story short, this game is amazing, and then guess what? The creators of the game vanished from the face of the earth. They couldn't be contacted on like any platform. I did my part in, because here's the thing, a buddy and myself, we really wanted this game to get a physical Switch version, and so I was contacting everyone I possibly could who like worked on the game or whatever. Obviously I didn't hear back from the main two people who developed it, but I did hear back from the person who did the music, and even he said like, yeah, I haven't been in touch with them, I haven't heard back anything like from them whatsoever. And at the time, companies were attempting to get a hold of them to do a physical version, but none of them heard back either. So it was just crazy. And then, so time went by, still no one was hearing anything. And then out of nowhere, there was a company that announced they were handling a physical version. So obviously they somehow were able to get in touch with these two guys wherever they are. But it was just such a bizarre experience, because all this time was going by where like people wanted to do a physical and like were attempting to contact them, and just nothing, like no trace whatsoever. And I have no idea like why that is. Like, it's just mysterious details. But anyway, let's get back to the game. This game is a blast to play. It's another one that just has fantastic mechanics, super fun learning curve, and throws a lot at the player, even though it's not a super long game. I think this one sits around 33 minutes or so. So it's like, it's a decent length, but it's not like we're talking about an hour worth of surviving through stuff. But for the time that we do have here, we see some really cool things. In terms of just like the pacing, like even the boss fight, for instance, the fact that we have, like most of the time, a boss is on screen all the time. But in here, it vanishes, it goes underwater, and these other things pop up, and then you get back into the action. And some of the stage design stuff that we will see later on when we get there, like every single stage is just its own unique creation, and it's always throwing something wild and something different and something exciting your way. And I think that is really a testament to just how, man, they were onto something when they made this game. Like, it's off the charts, and I'm not sure what they're doing, like obviously, like, because I have no idea what they have been doing or what their situation is now, but it would be amazing to see what they would do in the event they were going to do another shmup. That would just be bonkers to me to see what they come up with. And when you are playing the like the Super Gauntlet, or like the harder difficulties or whatever, some of the, I'll call them bonus stages, because like you don't see them unless you're playing higher difficulty. Those stages in particular are just fantastic. Like each level has just such a cool look and feel to it, and it applies pressure in different ways, and I think that's really awesome. So in this stage, it can be really tricky getting used to all of the flying enemies that come at you, especially because they just come out of like the cliff holes there that we see and stuff like that. But it's just the fact that we're on Mars, but in the past. I'm not sure, I don't recall the specific year it's mentioned in the story. We might have even seen it on screen, but it's just like some centuries ago. It's just such a cool blend of like technology and location and the past. Like, it's just so fascinating to me. Now, I'm by no means like playing for a score or anything. This is just a survival run, and it's the first and only time I've ever cleared this. After clearing this, I think I took a break because I think I jumped into the next difficulty up, but at the time it felt like it would require a very, very different approach. Like, sometimes you can just you can play the game the same way, and maybe you can't, but I think at the time I felt like, you know what, this is going to require a little something more, and so I think I just decided to take a rest from it. But eventually I do want to get back and yeah, continue clearing the difficulties, because the game is just such a blast. And I'm glad to be finally sharing it with thoughts, because yeah, like obviously I would have done probably a first look or something. I don't recall when that came out, but guaranteed I would have had to have done that. The Dread Century. Gonna be the Dead Century soon. So oh, and this game is loaded with content. There are like these individual challenges you can do, and some of them are just completely bonkers. Oh man. But anyway, this is a pretty wild pattern to get used to, because yeah, just things creep closer and closer horizontally while these red things are zeroing in on us somewhat. But thankfully it doesn't take too long to get rid of that guy. Oh man, oh man. But yeah, let's talk about the music. Like, oh man, this, like what we just heard, and we're obviously not going to hear it in this run because I clear it. But when you do game over, if you don't know that music, please look it up. I'm trusting it's on like an OST list or something. It is one of the best, most moving pieces I've ever heard in a shmup ever. It is just like, sometimes when I would be playing this game at night and I would get a game over, I would just sit there and listen to that for who knows how long, because it's that good. It is just incredible. But it's just, man, the orchestra vibes, like just the intensity, like everything that went into this music, like it's very non-typical. I'm not sure, I don't think that's actually the word to use. That's just what came to mind. Like, it's just, you don't hear this kind of composing every day. It's actually, I feel like it's pretty rare, but it works so incredibly well given the nature of this game, like the plot, the location, like everything. It really fits. And I love it. And I really do enjoy sections where, in games, not that I have to see this all the time, of course, because, like, yeah, in some games it just wouldn't necessarily suit so well, but I like how we come to a complete stop and the scrolling stops, and you're just dealing with, like, these tower defenses before the gate then opens and you proceed. And it's cool that we're not just going up against like enemy vessels, but we're going up against biological life forms of one sort or another, like these hopping creatures, like just wild stuff. And it's neat when games do a mix of machinery or things that are being just controlled by like intelligent life, and then other forms of life, whether intelligent or not, I'm not sure, but they're after us, and that's the main thing we want to be aware of. This boss fight is just cool. Just super cool. We're just resplendent brood queen. And even just the way they deliver these, like, how often is a boss just there, just scrolls into view? But in, like, here they really, like, everything is just like, they take the production and the deliverance to a whole other level. Like, everything has this wicked introduction in its own way, like visually or like with the music and everything. And I think little touches like that just create such a rich experience. And the pixel art, like, look at this boss, like, holy smokes. Look at the wing designs and just, like, everything. The legs, the head, the wing shield sections or whatever would normally cover when the wings are, like, put away. And just the phases too, the fact that, like, okay, you can't fly right now because it's damaged or whatever, but we are in this phase where it's still attacking us. Like, you do not see this kind of stuff every day. It's incredible. Now, I think what I will do for this video specifically is experiment with boosting the gameplay audio a little more. I had someone mentioned that it would have been nice to hear in one of my previous videos. It would have been nice to hear a little more. I usually stick to a very specific balance, but I'm all for experimenting. So everybody here who's listening, if you want to let me know if it's too loud or what, that would be, yeah, useful feedback for me. So in terms of scoring, I'm certainly no pro when it comes to understanding, like, all the ins and outs, but there are actually ways to score huge in this game, depending on, like, the order in which, I think the minecarts, the order in which you destroy the sections, that can play into it. And even, I think the big ships, which we've seen, I think one or two of already, with, like, the colored buttons on top, I think there is actually something to the order in which you destroy those. I could just be imagining things, but I'm almost positive there's something to that. Actually, the episode of Meet the Player that's coming out next month is with someone who loves this game and is most likely far, far more knowledgeable than I am when it comes to the scoring. I'm really excited to share that episode. I'm gonna sip away at some water here. But yeah, just super cool. And just the fact that, like, we're not even flying a ship. We're not piloting a ship. We're just, like, it's kind of just this contraption. And I think that's another really cool touch that just fits in with the theme that this game gushes. And depending on what build you go with, I'll just call it a ship because I'm not sure what we want to call it. Maybe a conveyance. I think that's the term they actually use. Your conveyance will actually look quite different, and there's some really cool ones. So here we are at the train boss. Some of these fights can get pretty wild when you're first adjusting to what happens, and oh man, like this doesn't look like anything crazy, but I think when you're still new to it, it's easy to be thrown off by things. But I do love the way they've balanced the mechanics. It's a lot of fun. Tall Tales with John Smith from beneath the shifting sands of Deimos. So this is one of my favorite levels. It's pirate themed and it's really, really cool. It just looks awesome. There's a lot of really cool stuff. Cool enemies. Like these, man, like these crabs that just have all this gear attached to their backs and stuff. Like, it's powerful stuff. I really, really want the devs to make a comeback of some sort. Or to at least communicate, like, where they are and what's been going on. Like, holy smokes. So, the conveyance that I'm piloting, this one has a very, very fast speed, and it also feels very slippery a lot of the time, so that's something that takes some serious getting used to. Because it's easy to just kind of slide all over the place and take hits. So, I think what I would probably do for the next difficulty up, I would potentially consider something that will feel a little more stable for, it's not that you can't play in a controlled way, but I think, well, it's tricky to say, but in ways I would just like to see if I can kind of have a better handle on the next difficulty up with something that doesn't move like this does. Something that is just a little more firm or controllable. But actually, it might have been the fact that I was playing with the Pro Controller at the time too. Because I know when I did Crimson Clover, I was using the Pro Controller, and the stick on that is just not something I ever want to go back to. It's just way too loose, way too jittery. Sometimes when I look over my Crimson Clover Arcade Original clear, specifically the TLB, I see parts where it's like, wow, I remember not moving it that much, but it just overshot anyway. And oh man, it's crazy. But anyway, let's get back to this. This is a really, really awesome and fun boss. Just the way things can come from the sides too, like some of those initial shots we saw. Like, stuff like that's just so cool. And then here's kind of like an intermission moment. And I do like that they kind of give you some of those moments to just as a breather, sort of, and to just replenish your gauge. Yeah, you want to destroy as many of those big grenade or bombs as you can before those go off. Oh yeah, I just remembered the way, I think part of the way the scoring works is when you activate your Vaunt, your bar will start draining, but as long as you're collecting gears, it'll replenish a bit, or sometimes all the way up. So that's part of the whole thing about how you like score huge, is like you keep that going as long as you possibly can to get as much score out of it as possible. Man, even the sound effects, just clicking around in this game is fantastic. So here is the final stage. So right away you can tell, okay, things are shifting around to create access or barriers or whatnot. But this stage goes places. It is something else, I'm telling you. And I think, I don't want to say most of the learning in this game, but a fair chunk will certainly just be this level alone because of how much things shift around, and just learning what to avoid, what can trap you, that sort of stuff. When to just do what I did there, where it's like you're kind of just dipping in here and there, or tucking yourself somewhere. But when you're still in that... Oh, that was just so silly. What was I doing? Like, rush right into the impending doom. But when you're in that mode of having not cleared the game yet, and you don't have a full grasp on what to do, this stage can be extraordinarily intimidating, because like you want to get that clear for the first time, and this stage is just nuts. There's a lot going on. And it can just feel like very intense at times. It's fantastic. Man, the mad dashing you gotta do sometimes, holy smokes. Or how easy it is to, like, the game sometimes tricks you, because you won't see too much of what's out of sight right above you, because it hasn't scrolled into view, but then things will just, like, drop into position, and boom, and you're right there taking it to the face. This is a stage where you've really got to just be patient and trust. Here we go. Such a cool machine. Look at the size of this thing. So this whole phase is pretty easy to stay on top of. This part of the fight is not really a threat at all, especially if you're budgeting your Vaunt appropriately. Nothing here is really too crazy. Still pay attention, of course, but It's not like, I'm sure Divine and Judgment difficulties are, yeah, quite a bit crazier here. And I do like that you, like, just the way you can use the Vaunt bubble while it's up for the second or two that it is. So instead of thinking you have to cancel out like one entire side, like you can sometimes, excuse me, I'm gonna need to drink some water soon. You can sometimes just kind of like lean into one direction then the other just to minimize both. And then, yeah, like just creative ways you can approach the game. Like everyone's gonna play it differently, but so if you're not watching the boss's health, there are times where it will heal. Like that whole first bar, it was like constantly going up. So you gotta do enough damage. Now, since it has been quite some time since I played, I don't recall if things get more intense or what. Oh man, down to my last life now. I just took that to the face. But we did it. Wow. So anyway, that is that. Legendary mode, Super Gauntlet. Such a blast. Anyway, we're going to leave off there for now. Thank you so much for being here, for checking this out. Let me know what you think in the comments, if you've played this, if you are interested in checking it out. But yeah, have a solid day. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.